Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I apologize for this slight delay in getting started, but appreciate everyone taking the time to join today. All right. Well, how's everyone feeling? How's everyone doing? All right, we got a thumb up. We'll take it. It is a tough time for everybody. I know. There is a lot going on, and my goal today is to make sure that we answer questions and communicate as clearly as we can about what we can expect in the coming days in terms of visitors. Before we get to that, which obviously I know is very important and probably on a lot of your minds, I wanted to just share really quickly a snapshot of where we are in the county in terms of COVID. So I'm going to share something here real quickly. This is the chart that shows the 7-day, or it shows daily cases, confirmed positive cases throughout the county, and then it gives us a 7-day rolling average number of new cases. So it's a sort of a rolling average every week. So as we can see from the beginning of the pandemic, we spiked last year, or two years ago, I guess now, in sort of November, December, and January of 2021. And we're back, and COVID is back with a vengeance. So we've peaked, well, I don't know if we've peaked, but we've gotten up to over 6,000 new cases per day over the last few days, and our weekly average is now up close to 4,000, and will continue to rise. In a call that we had with the Santa Clara County Department of Public Health yesterday, they estimate that even these numbers are the reported numbers, and so the reported numbers are probably fairly significant, or significantly lower than what the actual numbers are, due to testing limitations and other things, unreported positive cases. If we look at these numbers, these are not as detailed numbers, especially over the course of the last month, but this is the number of deaths per week, COVID-related deaths per week. So that number obviously peaked a year ago and has stayed relatively low And as of now, there has not been a significant increase in number of deaths, which is positive news. The county let us know yesterday that they have definitely seen an increase in hospitalizations over the past few weeks. The rate at which the hospitalizations are rising is not as closely proportionate as we saw previously. So hospitalizations are still rising at a rate faster than we saw before, but not as fast if it's a function of the total number of positive cases. So depending on how you look at that, that could be positive news as well. Let's see here. Ooh. Okay. Here at the Terraces of Los Gatos, we currently have, and actually this is as of yesterday, actually, or this morning, we still have one resident that is still considered a positive case. We had two previously, and one has since been cleared. And we have quite a few team members. I can tell you exactly. I think we're up to. I'll get a definite count, and we'll get that communicated out by the end of the day today. But I think we have 19 team members currently that are out with a positive COVID diagnosis, which obviously creates an impact operationally, and our teams continue to work hard through it. And residents and family members alike have continued to be incredibly supportive and understanding of the challenges that this pandemic has. Staffing's tough, and if it's not team members themselves that have tested positive, we have many team members who have close family members that they live with that have tested positive, and so they may be home and quarantining. We have others that are out with symptoms that are pending test results. So the unfortunate reality is we'll likely continue to see more and more positive cases, and need to continue to adjust accordingly. Some of you may have heard, there's some reports in some of the larger cities, specifically in New York and Boston, some of the numbers are starting to decline at a somewhat rapid rate. So hopefully we will peak soon here in Santa Clara County and start seeing numbers drop soon. All that being said, in accordance with state and county guidelines, visitors will be allowed to enter the community starting tomorrow. And there are new guidelines in place that make sure that we're able to allow visitors, and also do so in a way that is as safe and as least risky as possible. So the requirements for visitors, and these requirements have come down from the state level. And so these are not requirements that TLG or Human Good or even Santa Clara County are necessarily imposing on our own, but these are statewide requirements. So any visitors coming to the community will need to provide proof of up-to-date vaccination. And so that's a slight difference from what we previously defined as full vaccination. Now visitors need to have their up-to-date vaccination. So what that means is full initial vaccination, so do 2 doses of the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine, or 1 dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, plus a booster shot if they are eligible to have a booster shot. And the eligibility of the booster shot is based on the timeline of when they got their initial vaccination. So those that received their Pfizer or Moderna vaccination after 6 months, they're eligible to get their booster shot. So they would need to provide proof of their booster shot, or if they got the Johnson & Johnson one, it's 2 months after their vaccination shot that they would need to have a booster shot. So if they're in that period of time, or if they've become booster eligible, they'll need to provide proof of booster. If they haven't reached that point, they just need to provide proof of their vaccination. In addition to the up-to-date vaccinations, they'll need to also provide a proof of a negative COVID test. And so previously it was sort of, you either have to be vaccinated or provide proof of a negative test. That has changed, that you have to be vaccinated and provide proof of a negative test. And the requirements for the test are a little more stringent than they previously were as well. If it's an antigen test, one of the rapid tests that's done, it needs to have been taken within 24 hours of the visit. And if it is,
okay, sorry for that. That's all right.
If it was a PCR test, it needs to have been administered within 48 hours of the start of the visit. If there are visitors who are not fully vaccinated or not up-to-date vaccinated, they can visit outdoors, and they would still be required to provide a proof of a negative test with those same parameters of 24 hours or 48 hours for an outdoor visit. One other minor change or major change, depending on how you look at it, previously the guidelines indicated that if both the visitor and the resident were fully vaccinated, resident and visitors could remove their masks during their visits. Obviously, we're not monitoring the in-person visits, but the guidelines now state that during visits, the visitors need to wear masks at all times, regardless of their vaccination status. And it also states that if there's an unvaccinated visitor or not fully vaccinated visitor visiting outdoors, it states that both visitor and resident need to wear a mask at all times. So my question to all of you is, you all got that, right? Clear as mud, isn't it? Does anyone have any initial questions about those guidelines? Feel free to unmute yourselves and ask away. Wow. Okay. If you have any questions that you think of that we didn't get to, that you didn't think of later, or if you think of a question later, feel free to reach out to me, and I will do my best to answer any questions that you have. We had our booster clinic here at the community earlier this week, and it was a successful clinic. I believe we had 40 total booster shots that were administered. the vast majority of them were for team members. We had some contracted vendors also, and a few residents as well. And just so everyone is aware, all of team members are required to have their up-to-date vaccinations. So their initial vaccinations plus their booster shots for those eligible by January 24th. There is a statewide requirement of February 1st, but the Santa Clara County upped the ante, and the requirement for those in Santa Clara County are January 24th. So we are well underway. We are optimistic that there won't be any team members that we lose because of this new requirement. Most of our team members are fully vaccinated and boosted at this point, and we anticipate that the rest of the remaining team members will be boosted by the 24th. So hopefully that won't impact staffing levels at all. Residents, we highly encourage residents to be fully vaccinated and be boosted. Vast majority of our residents, 98+% of our residents, last time I checked, are fully vaccinated. And most, I don't have an exact number, most have been boosted as well. If you received a booster shot, not at the terraces, but somewhere else, and you haven't done so already, if you can notify either the wellness team, or you can send an email to the COVID team, covidtlg@humangood.org, to let us know, or you can contact Dana Concepcion, the infection preventionist, directly. Let them know when you received your booster shot. That would be helpful for us. We're not required to track those at this point, but we likely will be soon, and so we're doing our best to track those as closely as we can.
Bradley,
Yes.
is there
Linda.
anything from the health department about second boosters? I've had, my booster has been 5 months ago now. And I wonder if there's a need, or if I should seek out another booster.
There's nothing definitive that I am aware of that's either come from the CDC or the state or local health department. There is I mentioned earlier, there's a shift in the way that we're starting to see a shift in the way that public health and CDC are communicating. We're going to likely start seeing the term up-to-date vaccinations more than fully vaccinated or fully vaccinated and boosters. Reading in between the lines, that indicates to me that we'll likely see ongoing booster shots. But at this point, there's nothing concrete or nothing definitive, at least that I'm aware of. Any other questions, possible scenarios that we could walk through together? I know it's super complicated, and regulations and guidelines are changing at a fairly rapid rate. It's hard for us to keep track of it, and so I can only imagine how difficult it might be keeping track of everything that we're trying to communicate out to the community. The current requirement to be vaccinated, boosted, and provide a negative test for visits. It's sort of been indicated that that will hopefully not be a permanent or an ongoing requirement. I anticipate that we probably won't be required to have visitors provide proof of testing if they're up to date with their vaccinations. But I think that's sort of an interim measure to help get us through these next few weeks. Purely speculation on my part, but I anticipate probably if things go as everyone is hoping or anticipating that they go come the first or second week of February, we'll still have the requirement to be up to date with vaccinations for visitors, but may not require a test as well.
Bradley, do you know of any source for the tests? My daughter has tried local pharmacies and can't find any.
No, is the short but the honest answer. I don't know. I wish I had a better answer. I know my own family, we struggled when we had possible exposure of family members to find testing capabilities. It's really, really tough. I don't know. We were able to find down in Santa Cruz County, actually through the school district, the schools had some testing sites that were open that were initially just for students, I think, and maybe their family members, but then they expanded them essentially to everybody. I don't know if there's something similar nearby here. We can try to explore that, but that may be something to look into. But I don't unfortunately have better information to share. We've discussed whether or not it was a possibility to provide tests on site. And we simply are struggling to have the resources available to test our team members on a consistent basis. So we unfortunately aren't able to really provide any assistance at this point.
But you are able to test residents if someone thinks there's a need, or do they have to go through their doctor?
Good question. We do have test kits available if they're residents who are symptomatic or have potentially been exposed. We do want to test them, and we do have the ability to provide those tests. So reach out to a wellness nurse if that situation may apply to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We're hoping that, obviously goes without being said, we're all hoping that testing supplies become more readily available. But yeah, it's a struggle right now for everybody we know. Any other questions about anything COVID related, COVID precautions? I don't know when it's going to stop. I wish I did. But who knows these days? Well, we will move on from COVID to a couple of other topics. I mentioned this, I think we may have mentioned it last week, or maybe it was at the State of Business. I am excited to announce that we have a new individual joining our leadership team, a gentleman by the name of Bill Penrod. Has accepted an offer to lead our health center team in the administrator role in the health center. Bill is a great leader, lots of experience within the industry. And I think that those, when you get a chance to meet him, you are really going to get to know him and like him quickly. Bill will be sending out a memo introducing him to the community. I was hoping to get it out this week. That may not happen until next week. But Bill has been, he's been in the senior living industry for, at least a decade now. He's currently, most recently, he's been the executive director of a senior living community here in the Bay Area in San Jose. And prior to that, he had worked for a number of years at another continuing care nonprofit continuing care retirement community in Cupertino. Sunnyview is the name of the community that he was at for quite a while. And I got to know Bill through sort of industry association about 4 years ago. Was very impressed with him, and I think he's going to be a great addition to our team. So more information about Bill and his role. The role is going to be structured a little bit differently than it has been in the past, but we'll share those details in the memo that will probably come out early next week.
Bradley,
Yes.
this is Linda. Is this a new position, or is this a variation on the health services administrator position, or what exactly is this? And why is it that way instead of the HSA?
Good question. So it's sort of a variation of the HSA position, the health services administrator position. What we have discovered, and really what we've known for quite some time, previously the health services administrator position oversaw the daily operations in the health center, and also had the responsibility to oversee essentially all of the operations in the assisted living, as well as the wellness department and the Grove memory support. That's just too much for one person to do. And so what we're doing is we're doing a little bit of restructuring, in that we'll have one person who's ultimately overseeing all of the operations in the health center. That's the role that Bill will have. Another slight, really this is sort of a technicality, but Bill's title will officially be assistant administrator of the health center, and not administrator. Reason being is Bill has he's got an exam that he still needs to take to officially be called the administrator, according to the state of California. So from a licensing perspective, I will remain as the licensed administrator of the health center, but Bill will be overseeing all of the daily operations within the health center.
Does he plan to take the last exam?
Yes, he is. And then, so in doing so, of having one individual who oversees all aspects, operations in the health center, We are in the process of hiring somebody else who will be kind of a partner with Bill on the sort of same level as Bill, that oversees and supports all aspects of the assisted living, memory support, and wellness department. And so, as most of you know, Stephanie Saria, she's been hired as our assisted living manager. And so she is taking on the responsibility of the daily operations within assisted living. And we are in the process of hiring another individual who will take on the director role that will be the person that oversees everything within assisted living, memory support, and wellness. And I'm actually excited to report that we have somebody that is confirmed for that position. We have a start date scheduled of February 14th. And there will be more information that comes early next week to introduce that individual to the community.
What is that going to mean once the two of them are in place? What is that going to mean in terms of your real ongoing workload?
I don't know if I understand the question, Linda.
Can
you rephrase the question?
Yes, right now you have the overall responsibility for overseeing all of those levels of care, in addition to the residential living. Now, if there is someone who is taking care of, and you can trust and depend on to take care of those two major areas, what does that mean in terms of your own workload?
I'm going to Hawaii.
No, I don't mean that.
That's what it means. Oh, it will be huge. I am thrilled to have these individuals coming on board. What it will mean is the leaders of those individual departments will have a lot more support than they've had, because they'll have somebody that's in that role to support and provide guidance and operational support on a daily basis. It means that residents will have an additional level of leadership that they can reach out to and rely on for support and assistance as needed. It will be huge, and I'm very excited about it. I'll continue to have I'll continue to have an active role in all aspects of the community, more so in the health center, as Bill gets up to speed. But I'm confident in both of their leadership that they'll be able to hit the ground running and really start making a positive impact in their respective areas.
I think it's important for the rest of the community as well as for you to have this happen.
Agreed. Thank you. Let's see. Couple of other minor updates. We, as most of you are probably aware, Edna Andres is the spiritual care director at the Terraces at Los Gatos, and she is graciously providing support to us here at the Terraces of Los Gatos as well on an interim basis as we've continued to pursue our search for a permanent spiritual care director here at our community. We are getting fairly close to moving forward with permanent spiritual care director for us here at the community. So hopefully we have more specific information to share in the coming days. But we are tremendously appreciative of Edna, and she will be great to help us as we transition in a new person into that role when that happens, and hopefully that won't be too long from now. Wanted to also just mention we have made quite a few changes at the human good level to our recruitment in support of our recruitment and retention efforts. We know that is obviously something that is incredibly important. It's more important now than it's ever been for us to be able to recruit the best talent and to be able to retain our existing team members. There are three working groups that we've created within the organization that are including team members from all of our communities, and with the goal of focusing our efforts in an effective way in three specific categories. One is recruitment, one is retention, and one is our onboarding process for our new team members. So each of those working groups have specific tasks, goals that they're working towards accomplishing to make sure that we are doing just that. We're recruiting the best talent, we're retaining our team members as effectively as we can, and we are making sure that our new team members, right from the start, we're setting them up for success. Christy McKinney, our human resources director, she is involved in that process. I'm involved with one of those working groups as well. And what we've done is we've actually created essentially an entirely new department within the organization. Previously, up until I don't know when, a few months ago, within the last year, I would say, all of the recruitment efforts were all driven through the human resources team. And without anyone that was really specifically designated to focus on recruitment, we have actually created an entire new department for recruitment, specifically for recruitment. So we have several recruiters that are working with us at each of our communities to make sure we have an effective recruitment strategy. And it's been working very well. We are in constant communication with the recruiters that we're working with, and we've seen the benefits of that, and we anticipate to continue to see those benefits. And there are some recruiters that are designated to work specifically on administrative and leadership positions, recruiters that are designated specifically for clinical positions, nurses primarily, and then recruiters that are designated for other important positions like dining services positions, maintenance, and housekeeping positions. So we're seeing some traction there, and I think that has been effective in our ever important goals of hiring the best team members possible.
Bradley?
Yep.
Later in the year, will we be able to see some metrics about what kind of difference this has made with the additional resources, both in the hiring and retention areas? Do we have fewer open positions? Do we have a decreased number of people, leaving the leaving the terraces?
Yeah, yes. In short, yes, I'm happy to share any metrics that we have, and those are metrics that we look at closely. I guess with one big caveat of this year, especially, or this past year, it's been totally crazy, totally different than any other year. And
Right.
so looking at things like, I would anticipate our retention, our number of open positions necessarily, let me start over. I would anticipate that our number of open positions right now, compared to where we were a year ago, is higher now than it was a year ago. Even though we have a recruitment team that is, in my opinion, doing a really good job. And so it's sort of difficult to compare to what it would have been had we not had them, if that makes sense, given the current labor situation. So anyways, but to answer your question, later in the year, we'll see what metrics may be helpful, and happy to share whatever we can.
Bradley.
Yes.
It's Ruth Hensley.
Hi.
Given the current labor situation, has there been any emphasis or help given to those workers who wish to become U.S. citizens? Does that figure into why we could retain or why we would be losing any team members? Is there any help available for that?
Specifically to about citizenship, I'm honestly not aware. I don't think so. I don't know if Christy, if you're on, if you have any information that I may not have, but I don't think that's something that we've had any conscious
I just
effort to
wonder
work
if
towards.
people have green cards or if they can only stay here for so long and then they need to go to the countries where they were. If to retain people, we couldn't help with the road to becoming a U.S. citizen. I know in one instance that is that is true. That's a potential issue. So I'm just asking across the board.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good question. I don't have anything helpful to say about that other than it's a good suggestion. I think it's something we need to look at.
Is there any progress in corporate thinking about providing help with housing in the high cost areas like the coasts?
Nothing that I'm aware of, at least in specifically in terms of housing. I think our current goal is to be as aggressive as we can with our wages that we're paying, and I know that we've attempted, at least as best we can, to be increase our wages to be as competitive as we can be. Specifically about housing, I don't know if we haven't done anything here locally, and I'm not aware of anything at the corporate level. Any other questions, comments, feedback, concerns?
Bradley, this is Susan. I just have a question. With, for example, the housekeepers, right now, there is no housekeeping service unless it's requested. So there are a lot of hours for the housekeepers that are not being utilized in the residence apartments. Do they have to take a reduction in their hours, or are the housekeepers used in other areas? I know, for example, the janitorial work, the refuse pickup, that has not changed at all. As a matter of fact, we're generating more refuse and recyclable now than before. But what about the housekeepers who are doing cleaning the apartments? Are their hours cut back?
No. We're certainly not cutting back hours. At least we're not intentionally doing so, in the sense that if team members are working and they're scheduled to work, we are certainly going to make as much use of them as we possibly can. Housekeepers have been sort of reassigned to give more attention to some of the public spaces and some of the common areas. If we get to a point where there's not any work for them to do, which I don't think we would, there's always continuing education courses that team members are required to complete. So we would make sure that they get working hours to complete those courses. Unfortunately, right now we have quite a number of team members from our housekeeping department that are out. And so I doubt that there would be a scenario where we would be asking team members to take a reduction in hours.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Some team members as well are have requested some time off, and whether that be because they just need a break or if they have family members that they need to stay home and care for. We're seeing that as well.
Bradley, this is Judy. I'd like to make a comment about cleaning. The refuse room on the third floor of Building L, I've noticed the same, you can substitute your own favorite word, has been on the floor for weeks. Somebody dropped something and it's been there for weeks, and I'm wondering why aren't the refuse rooms kept cleaner?
That's true for a lot of the refuge rooms, Judy, not just that one.
Well, that's the only one I see, and I just want to know what the answer is.
Right.
I mean, I wish I had a good answer, but I think the reality of the answer is we're struggling to get enough people to stay on top of it. But I'll follow up with our housekeeping team to.
So the person that picks up the bag out of the can, can't that person bend over and pick up something that's lying on the floor? I mean, that's asking too much.
Yeah, I don't think that's asking too much. If they're there, then they should leave it in a clean and satisfactory way. We'll follow up with the housekeeping team on that. Thank you for letting me know.
Thank you.
I want to be sure we don't end up dumping on the janitors, because the work that they do here is not something that any of us would want to do. And they're committed to doing it as well as they can all the time. I mean, I understand about things on the floor and you want them picked up and stuff, but I want to be sure we're not dumping on janitors, especially when we're in short supply of them.
And I don't want to dump on janitors either, but I just felt I wanted to point out that there was stuff on the floor that had been there for a very long time.
Mhm.
Thank you both for those important comments. Appreciate it. What else is on your mind? Anything at all? What did everyone think of that? Any football fans here? You watch any of those football games over the weekend?
Yep.
I heard they were exciting.
You're not watching?
I caught the tail end of the 49ers game. Don't ask me who they were playing though. I don't remember it. I don't know much about sports. But it sounded exciting.
There's a really good documentary on Peacock about Joe Montana, and I'm not a big football fan, but the documentary is really well done. Joe Montana, has been kind of our boy here in the Bay Area. So I highly recommend the documentary on Peacock.
There's one on John Madden too, but I can't remember now where to find it, but it was really good. I wonder if they're going to televise his memorial service from the Oakland Coliseum.
Thank you for sharing. Oh, it looks like there was a comment that came through earlier that I tried to get a second booster and they would not give it to me. So yeah, I don't think they're offering a second booster at this point. But who knows? See if that will change at some point in the not too distant future.
How often will this meeting be held, and will it be at the same time every time? Is it a specific day of the month at all?
This current meeting,
Yes, the community chat.
they're scheduled the second and fourth Thursday of the month. Same time, same place. So we have State of the Business on the first Thursday of the month. Second and fourth is these much more informal community chats.
I was on Kubago and an alert came up reminding me about the meeting today. Otherwise, I didn't know. I don't always look at the activities. And so I didn't remember that it was today. And I really appreciated that bling that came up, however that happens. Keep it up.
Thank you for letting us know. Glad that was helpful. All right. Pat Smith.
Back to a COVID question. Given the short supply of rapid tests and the turnaround time for PCR tests, what constitutes proof of for our visitors? Gotcha.
Good question, Pat.
It is a good question. I think the PCR tests are easy. I mean, if someone gets a PCR test, they're going to get a written report, whether it be by text or email or some other means. If it's an antigen test, a rapid test, it may be a little more difficult. There's a lot of different testing kits that are out there and available, and they don't give you like a printed report like the PCR tests do. And so if somebody has in some cases in the past, we've had some visitors that will they'll do a rapid test here outside in the courtyard, and they'll physically, or they'll bring it and they'll show them the actual test with the result on it. Or if there's a picture of it, we would accept that as well. There is a little bit of, I guess we could call it the honor system. If somebody really wanted to, they could probably find a way to cheat the system. But our screeners will do their best to make sure we have at least some sort of verification that test has been administered in the timeline that it needs to be and with a negative test result. But whether it's an actual printed report or the actual test or a picture of it, those would be acceptable.
Good, thank you.
All right. Unless there are any other questions, I think we'll close today's community chat. Thank you all for joining, and hope to see everybody again real soon.
Thank you, Bradley.
Thank you, Bradley.
Welcome. Thank you.